Welcome to the Movie Cheese and welcome to an unboxing of Dark Souls, the board game. So for those of you that don't know, this was a Kickstarter campaign about a year ago I think, and they asked for an overall pledge of £50,000 I believe, not dollars. It's made by a company called Steamforged Games that are a British company, so I believe it's pound. So yeah, they were asking for £50,000, and from that and from the various pledges, they actually made 3.7 million. So quite a bit more than what they were actually asking for. So it was a very, very successful campaign. As you can imagine, you know, with it being Dark Souls, one of the biggest sort of video game franchises around at the moment. Obviously, I'm a huge fan, so I'm all over this thing. I didn't back the Kickstarter. I've just, bought this thing retail, and so let's crack this bad boy open. So on the front, there's a little bit of information. It says 1 to 4 players, age 14 plus, and one game should take 90 to 120 minutes, which I've heard is not true. I've heard that the average game actually takes around 4 hours. So yeah, there is some stuff on the back of the box as well, but I'm not going to flip it over because element of surprise and all that. So wow, okay, that's nice. You died. Okay, apparently I died. So in keeping with the Dark Souls theme, the first thing you see is a big thing saying you died. Lovely. Right, okay, so I'll put that to one side in the box. And the next thing we come to is these little plastic things. I'm not quite sure what they are. I think they're for the health dials. So each mini-boss and main boss comes with health dials, like a health tracker, and I think that's what these are for. So I'll put that to one side as well, so I don't lose them. The next thing we come to is another bag with cubes, lots of cubes. So I believe the red cubes are your health, the black cubes are your stamina, and the white cubes are basically what you use to upgrade your stats, basically, and sort of the cubes are what you use to show what stats you currently have, what level your stats are currently at. So the game has a really, we'll talk about this a little bit later on, but the game has a really unique system of basically utilising both health and stamina at the same time, sort of on one single bar, and you'll see what I mean in a minute once I get to that part of the box. So yeah, those are the cubes. Okay, the next thing we come to is some of the playing cards. There's 2 Union Jacks. I'm not quite sure why. I'm presuming that's because obviously this game is shipped to various parts of the world, different countries. So I'm presuming that the reason they put Union Jacks there is so that I'm aware that this is basically a UK version of the game. So it's in English basically. So I've opened up the first one, and as I thought, the Union Jack thing is literally just a card front thing. It's like a cover. So these look to be the cards for the various bosses of the game. So you got Dancer of the Boreal Valley, which is one of the main bosses, Dragon Slayer Ornstein, and then Executioner Smoke. Obviously these two you actually fight together, so you're essentially fighting 2 bosses at the same time, and and then you got the mini bosses as well, so the Boreal Outrider Knight, Gargoyle, Titanite Demon, blah 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 blah. And along with that, you've also got the various behaviour cards. So these are the sort of abilities and attacks that each boss is going to perform throughout the fight. These ones are basically what tells you which enemies and how many enemies you have to spawn in each encounter. So it tells you which nodes to place the enemies in. Obviously it's not all enemies, you've got like a barrel there and a chest there. There's no traps on this one, but basically just it's so you know what you're going to be fighting in the encounter. So I'll put that to one side as well. And then next up we've got some some more gear. So this is so on top you can see this is a claymore. This is a weapon that's this is a really good weapon for a knight. Actually, it's a really good weapon for a knight or a warrior, I guess, as well. There it tells you that it's a two-handed weapon. The DS just means it's from the core game set rather than one of the expansions. It actually has a block value, does this weapon, which makes it really cool. No dodge value. And then in the middle it basically tells you which attacks the weapon does. So for 1 stamina cost you can roll 2 blue dice plus 1. And then for 4 stamina cost you can roll 2 orange dice for plus 1. So yeah, really powerful weapon. Okay, so you'll notice that I've moved the brown boxes out of the way. That's because I think they do contain the various miniatures for the game, so naturally I want to do that bit last. Next up we have the manual for the game. So yeah, it's a really complicated, comprehensive game. So there's a lot of symbols and numbers and various other things to memorise in this game. So they kind of do like a quick summary on the background, just so that you don't have to skim through the entire manual just to check one thing. And I really like that. I think this is a thing that every board game should do. Anyway, moving on. So up next we have our first character card, and I'm not quite sure how well you'll be able to see this in the camera, but yeah, this is the character card for the assassin. So the card just pops out like so, and then you have your first character card along with, so I'll put the assassin character card to one side, along with various other things. So I think this is the symbol that you use for the bleed effect. You've got a treasure chest, some arrows I believe, gravestone, aggro token I think, and then you've got some damage. They're basically just sort of, you put them on a boss to know how much damage you've done to the boss basically, or indeed an enemy. So taking another look at the character card, so on the left you've got the spaces where basically you equip all gear for the character. You've got your heroic ability up here, which I believe the assassin is the only character that has a heroic ability that's actually an attack, so that's pretty cool. I think that's the space for the Ember. You've got your Estus Flask space. I can't remember what that's for. Heroic action, maybe. I don't know. Obviously, I haven't played the game yet, so I believe that's the luck token. In the top left corner of the stats area, you've got your aggro. So the assassin has an aggro of 8, and then obviously you've got your stats. So obviously the main stat for an assassin is dexterity, and then secondary being strength and intelligence. The assassin is quite apparently, from what I've heard, assassin is the most fun class to use, but actually the most difficult as well, because you've got to balance dodge. You've got to balance blocking with dodging. So you're actually going to be dodging quite a lot as an assassin. If you go for that build. Obviously, as we all know, Dark Souls is quite is the kind of game that you can start out as a warrior and quickly become a sorcerer. So yeah, it depends which build you go for. And then at the bottom, you've got your shared health and stamina bar. So the way this works is, I'll just bring back the cubes. So we've got the health and stamina cubes here, and as you take damage, you place a red cube in. You start placing red cubes from the right, and as you use stamina, so for abilities and dodging and such forth, you place black cubes from the left. And when they meet in the middle, basically you die. And another thing about the game is as well is that it's a completely 100% cooperative game, so it's not competitive in any way. I guess it's kind of competitive in terms of like getting gear, but you want to gear each person up. Like, you don't want to single anyone out, because one of the rules of the game is that basically when one person dies, everyone dies. So if one person dies, the other 3 people aren't left alive to fight on their own. They die as well, and we all return to the bonfire. So anyway, that's a character card. Okay, so up next we've got some more coins and stuff to push out, coins and tokens and all that good stuff. So up top we've got the various health dials for the bosses that you're going to be fighting. So these are the little card things that you obviously push out to actually assemble the health dials. We've got some more souls, so 5 souls apiece. We've got your Estus flasks. These are traps, I think. Yeah, these are traps. Yeah, so they're traps. And other stuff that I don't know what they are yet. Okay, so I'll put that to one side. And then I believe this is the last thing. We then have the various tiles for the actual encounters. So these are basically where your fights are going to be taking place. So this one is actually one of the boss tiles. So you can see the node there basically lets you know that this is I believe that's the node for a main boss. So this is actually the main boss tile. And the way this one works is it actually links up with this tile here. So you put them together like so. And yeah, that just lets you know where the enemies actually spawn. If you're fighting a mini boss, you want to use this one tile, I believe. And the mini boss obviously spawns there on that node. And then next up, we've got basically the resting tile. So yeah, we've got so they look fairly similar. I'm guessing you just choose which one you want, which one you like the look of the most. I think I quite like this one. So yeah, this is obviously where you store your souls that you collect throughout the game. These are basically your treasure chests that you collect. This is basically where you open treasure essentially and get new gear and loot and stuff like that. And then this is where you store the loot that you've collected that you might want to come back to later. Say for instance you come across a sword that you really like but you don't quite have the stats for it yet. You can obviously spend souls throughout the game to increase your stats, and then the idea is you leave the sword there and come back to it later once you've got the stats to actually equip it. And obviously you've got your bonfire here. And so that is the resting tile, bonfire tile, whatever you want to call it. And then up next you've got a tile, well there's quite a few tiles, but I'm only going to show you one. So you've got one tile for a regular encounter. So yeah, the regular encounters, so you've got these yellow nodes which are basically your regular sort of movement nodes. These are also where traps can potentially spawn as well. You've got your enemy nodes here, so this is where enemies generally spawn, and then these are something else, can't quite remember what. I think they're for like treasure chests basically, so a treasure chest might spawn there and maybe like a barrel or a graveyard or something will spawn there. And that's pretty much it. The rest of the box just contains the various other tiles that you're going to be shuffling through and deciding where your fight is going to take place. Okay, so now we're going to get into the stuff that we really want to see, which is of course the miniatures themselves that you're going to be using in a playthrough of this game. Yeah, so in here we've got just some of the miniatures that you're going to be using. So these are the smaller miniatures. Closer. Yeah, so the first thing we've got is some of the dice. So these are the black attack and blocking dice and orange dice as well. And then we come to the first miniatures that we have. So we've got some Silver Knight Great Bowman. We've got some large hollows. Obviously there is Ornstein himself in all his glory, in all his finger-pointing glory. And then we've got two rather scary-looking sentinels. I'm not looking forward to fighting these guys. Okay, moving on. We've got some more dice. So we've got the blue dice and 4 dodge dice. So these, you're going to be using these quite a lot if you run an assassin, unless you decide to go sort of blocking assassin route, which you can do in this game. You know, it's obviously like the video game. You can pretty much take any route you want, any route and any build you want. Okay, so next up we've got the smaller miniatures. So we've got some crossbow hollows, some silver knights, and some hollow soldiers. And then last but not least, we've got the player characters themselves. So I'm just going to take one of them out. So this is the Herald. So you can see that the detail on these is pretty good. The plastic itself is actually it's a lot more solid than I was expecting. I've seen some reviews where people say that the plastic is too bendy, and that the miniatures could become easily damaged as a result of that, but it's actually quite solid. I mean, you can see I'm sort of shifting this, and there's a bit of flex to it, but there's not as much flex as I was expecting. So yeah, this is the Herald. Then we've got the Assassin. So again, a little bit of flex, obviously on his sword, but not to the point where it's like generally sort of disappointing in any way. Quite happy with this dude as well. Then we've got the Warrior with a big badass axe. I'm hoping my camera is actually focusing, but I don't think it is. So yeah, we've got the Warrior with a big badass axe and a nice shield. Yeah, that's the Warrior. And then we've got everyone's favourite, Sir Brave Knight. Yeah, so this is the Knight. So this is the character that you're going to pick if you're going to be wanting to basically tank. If you're just going to want to be a powerhouse that just blocks all incoming damage. Yeah, so that's the Knight. I'm just going to move these to the front actually, so you can see them in shot. Okay, and then I'll move the. I mean, I just want to point out that this dude is actually, like, his sword is actually quite bent. So do bear in mind that I think I'm probably, like, thus far I've been quite lucky here. In not receiving any sort of bent miniatures really, apart from this dude. But bear in mind that if you buy this game, your miniatures might not be in the same sort of conditions what mine are. I'm presuming, very hit and miss. So up next we have the box with the larger miniatures in. So these are the various bosses. I mean, obviously we've already actually seen one boss, which is obviously Ornstein, and Ornstein is I'm going to get Ornstein out actually, so let's get Ornstein out. So yeah, so this is one of the main bosses. This is Ornstein, and you fight him with Smaug at the same time. I've just noticed as well that the miniatures do have Dark Souls branding underneath the base, which is kind of cool. So yeah, put Ornstein to one side whilst we get the other bosses out. Now these guys are... wow. Okay, these guys are pretty big. These are some pretty big miniatures. For a board game, I mean, this is the kind of miniatures that you expect to see assembled for like D&D, but not your average sort of board game. So, which one do I go for first? Well, I went for Titanite Demon naturally, so I'm going to go for Titanite Demon first. Just pop Smaug back in. So yeah, so this is the Titanite Demon. Wow, the quality of these things is awesome. I mean, the quality of the characters, the actual player characters, is kind of cool. You know, if you look up close, there's actually a decent amount of detail, like in the shield and the sword and stuff like that. But the quality of these bosses is wow, it's crazy. And again, they're really sturdy. Like, there's no, like, I'm trying to sort of move the Titanite Demon's tail. There's no flex there whatsoever. There's a little bit of flex on his weapon, but not to the point where you can see it becoming damaged over time. So yeah, really happy with that. So I'll pop the Titanite Demon to one side. We'll take a look at another one. Yeah, let's go for Smaug. So seeing as I've got Ornstein out already as well. So this is the duo, dynamic duo of Ornstein and Smaug. So obviously you fight these guys at the same time. So this is actually a main. So these two are a main boss. So there are two main bosses in the game, which are Ornstein and Smaug. And then we've got the Dancer of the Berean Valley, which is your second main boss. This delightful looking diva here. Yeah, so these three are your main bosses, but those two you actually fight at the same time. So you don't fight Smaug separately and you don't fight Ornstein separately. You fight them at the same time. The Dancer, however, you fight on her own. So that was my unboxing of Dark Souls, the board game. Obviously, I will most likely be doing videos on playthroughs of this. I've heard that the game can be quite fun actually doing as a solo playthrough. So I think that will probably be the first video I attempt to do, basically. So stick around for more videos on this beast, and hopefully I don't embarrass myself by dying horribly in my first playthrough of it. So yeah, stick around, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and remember, every time you ignore the subscribe button, a kitten dies.
The way the flower flows out of your mouth.
What's with your mum?
The riots in America are led by Donald Trump.
That's amazing.
I like it. Right, here we go then. There you are. You have been caught. For you, the chase is over. Congratulations.